2025 really gave me some moments that I'm going to treasure forever. Like watching Moxie playing in the snow and the pure joy that she experiences. Or the volcano that we saw erupt in Hawaii just a few weeks ago. Right? It was something that I didn't even realize was on my bucket list, and now it's checked off. But the moments that really got me were much quieter, like the email that I received earlier this week that read, "Please know that even if I haven't made time to listen to all of your podcasts, I know you are there and that you are sending love into the world." That just warms my heart. And it really made me pause and reflect. And here's what I realized. Showing up isn't about being polished or perfect. It's just about being real and being of service, right? Showing up for the people who matter in your life. So today, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm sharing what I'm grateful for, the lessons that I've learned, and the wins that I almost didn't count because my brain tried to tell me they weren't big enough. So this is episode 320. It's 5 years of showing up 1 week at a time. And, well, if it's taught me anything, it's this. The magic isn't in the highlight reel. It's in what you notice when you're paying attention. Welcome to Happy and Healthy with Amy, the brain health podcast for women in midlife who want to not just survive, but actually thrive during the menopause transition and beyond. I'm Amy Lang, master health coach, best-selling author, and daughter of Alzheimer's, and I'm here to help you make this next chapter of your life the best one yet. Well, hi there, Amy here. Thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to the last episode of 2025. So again, this is episode 320, as I mentioned in the opening, which means I have been publishing an episode once a week for 5 years, right? Since February of 2020. And so for those of you who have been listening for a while, I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming back again and again and again. And for those of you who are new to this podcast, I'm going to be doing something a little different today. So we're not going to be getting into a lot of neuroscience stuff or habit creation stuff. Okay, what I want to do is share with you the lessons, the takeaways from 2025, from this past year. All right, and through those lessons, those takeaways, I think what you're going to get is a sense of how I approach life. And to the extent that it resonates with you, right? Maybe you can take that with you going into 2026. So my goal is to help you make this next year your best year yet. Okay? So the first thing I want to share with you is all about what I'm grateful for. So the list, I've got 8 things that I want to share with you. And again, I think from that you'll figure out what it is that I tend to pay attention to. So the very first one is being a pet parent with Matt. So Moxie is, how do I put it? Well, first, she's 3 years old now. She is a 75-pound Bernedoodle. And she has what's called an unfurnished coat. So in the doodle world, the reason why doodles have become so popular is because poodles have hair instead of fur, right? So it makes them hypoallergenic. Well, That's if you have a furnished coat. So Moxie has an unfurnished coat, which means she has fur. And she actually sheds quite a bit. Maybe not as much as a purebred Bernese Mountain Dog would shed, and she doesn't actually have a double coat. And she's only 75 pounds, where a purebred female Bernedoodle is, or female Bernese Mountain Dog would be closer to like 90 to 120 pounds. But still, she is my first dog ever. So that I have a 75 pound, or that we have a 75-pound dog that's actually pretty well trained is incredible, right? So why do I say I'm grateful for being a pet parent? Well, first, Moxie really does teach me about love, unconditional love, and being present and not holding grudges or resentments, and really loving the one you're with, right? So it's all about being present with her. And the other thing that actually being a parent has afforded us is, well, we don't have any human children, so I don't have to worry a lot about some of the things that human parents need to worry about, right? Like Moxie's never going to go to college. I don't have to think about paying for that. And I don't have to worry about her doing something horrible. Like, she's really a gentle soul. But there are still times where Matt and I have disagreed on what to do as far as training goes. And so Moxie has really given us the opportunity to deepen our connection, right? So again, it's really a situation that we hadn't been in up until about 3 years ago. So I've gotten to see how he navigates taking care of our dog, right? And we've had some communication challenges, but it really, well, there were opportunities to actually get better at communicating. So I'm incredibly grateful for that opportunity for Matt and I to actually deepen our bond. The second thing that I want to share with you is actually something that just happened a few days ago. So, just for a little context, over Thanksgiving, my brother was in town for a week, and he is traveling with his family over the Christmas, New Year's holiday. So we decided to celebrate Christmas the day after Thanksgiving by doing White Elephant and Secret Santa, so gift exchanges. And one of the gifts that my nephew Chase received were these jellies, okay? And actually, here's what they look like for those of you who are watching on YouTube, right? So they're peach jellies, and I remember when he opened up the package, I said, "Oh, can I have one or two to try?" And he said, "Okay." Actually, I think initially he said no, but then he said, "Okay," right? And that was it. We got distracted. We were doing something else. Well, fast forward to Christmas night. So I hadn't seen Chase since the day after Thanksgiving. Matt and I were on a 2-week cruise to Hawaii, so actually it was 16 days. And we got back and then we left again. So again, literally I hadn't seen Chase for almost a month, right? And I showed up at my sister's on Christmas night for Christmas dinner, and he opened the door, and the first thing he did, he's like, "Oh, wait a second." And he came back and he handed me these 2 packets of peach jellies. Now, I'm going to actually try these after I record this podcast, and I'll let you know in the next episode what they taste like and if I really like them or not. All right. But I was so touched that not only did he remember that I had asked, but that was literally like the first thing he wanted to do when he saw me. So mind you, he is a 16-year-old teenage boy. Okay, so kudos to my sister for raising some amazing boys. Okay, the third thing I want to share with you that I'm grateful for is that my mom still seems to be happy, not fearful, not anxious, but happy. So my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2016. So it's been 9 years. And fortunately, my dad, as her primary caregiver, really is an anchor for her. So as long as he's around, she's actually pretty calm. So when she sees me, she still knows who I am. Still knows all the family. She knows Matt, right? There's definitely decline though. Like she doesn't talk nearly as much as she used to, right? We have to be very direct with her. But all in all, when I think about the experiences that other people have shared with me about dementia and about Alzheimer's, I feel so incredibly lucky and grateful that my mom is still around and still happy. And she is another one that is really helping me appreciate how important it is to be present, right? She doesn't worry about the past. She's not looking forward. She's present. So if I'm with her in the present, everything's okay. Okay. The fourth thing I want to share is how grateful I am that it's not just my dad that's taking care of my mom, right? My parents only live, about zero point 0.8 miles away from me. It's that all of us are really helping with mom and dad. So my sister and her husband, as well as my brother and his wife, and then all the boys, the nephews, are helping out too. So it doesn't, again, I've heard so many stories about people who are on their own when it comes to caregiving. And so I feel incredibly lucky, right, and grateful that we're in this together, that we're not alone, and we have each other to lean on for support. So the fifth thing I want to share is really about my health, right? That I am healthy enough and fit enough to be able to play tennis, to travel, and when we talk about cognitive health, right, that I'm able to actually coach as well. Coach people on brain health and habits. And to have this podcast, right, as an opportunity to share what I've learned so that together we can create the lives that we want. All right. Number 6 is that while watching our parents age can be, well, it's a mixed bag, right? Mixed blessing. So while I'm grateful to have them around, it's also really hard to see my parents age, right? And at this point, both of my parents are experiencing some cognitive impairment. So my dad's is mild cognitive impairment, my mom's moderate dementia at this point. So that part of it is hard. Seeing their physical decline is hard as well. But having my parents move from Michigan to less than a mile away from me has also given me the opportunity to work on triggers that I really hadn't fully addressed, if you will, right? So I have the time to actually work through some of these, especially the ones with my dad, that I really wouldn't have had if they weren't still around and so close, right? Because my dad's able to hit those triggers, push those buttons pretty easily. So fortunately, over the past couple of years, it's gotten better and better, right? And then the seventh thing I want to share that I'm grateful for is this podcast, right? And all the new friendships that I've formed as a result of interviewing people on this podcast. So that includes Luca, who I'm not going to even try to pronounce his last name, but he's the dietitian from Austria, right? It includes Jill McMahon, the grief therapist that I had on just a few weeks ago, and Bill Yanowski, the CEO of Zinnia TV. So, and that's not to mention people that I knew already, like Tracy Otsuka and Dr. Zeri Gross. So, the eighth thing that I want to share with you that I'm grateful for is the ability, right? My ability to help others through these platforms like the podcast, like the YouTube channel, like the Instagram profile, as well as through coaching. So those are the things that I'm truly grateful for, right? The list, I could keep going, but I think that gives you a sense of, again, the things that I pay attention to. So what I would encourage you to do is to actually spend some time looking back on 2025 and what you're grateful for, right? And if you think about what I said as I was talking about these 8 items, in some cases, I'm grateful for stuff because of the challenges that were presented, right? And then how I was able to approach them. So I would again encourage you to try doing the same. Okay, the next thing I want to share with you are some of my favorite moments from this past year. So in the opening, I talked about seeing a volcano erupt. So the cruise that Matt and I went on in December was a 16-day cruise to and from Hawaii. So we visited 4 islands, the Big Island, we visited Oahu, we visited Kauai, and Maui. And on the Big Island, we actually went to Hawaii's Volcano National Park, and we saw episode 38 of the Kilauea volcano erupting. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm showing you some of the video that I took. And honestly, well, the reason we went to this particular stop, we rented a car and then we drove out to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. I'd never been there. Matt had been there before, but I'd never been. And when we were on our way to go rent the car, the shuttle driver actually talked about how we were really lucky because the volcano was erupting that morning, had just started erupting. And you could actually, even from the airport, we could see the plume that was a result of the eruption of the volcano. So we got there around 10:30 in the morning. There was no line to get into the national park. They were actually waving people in as opposed to stopping people for the entrance fee. I think they knew that the park was going to be a zoo that day. So we were there for about 2 hours. By the time we left, the line to get into the park was seriously about 1.5 to probably 2 miles long. So we were incredibly lucky that we chose to go there as our first stop. I think a lot of people were advised to go to see waterfalls first, right? So seeing a volcano erupt, I did not know how special that was going to be. And I did not know that it was an item on my bucket list. But it clearly is or was because it's now been checked off. All right. So the second favorite moment that I had this year was making a new friend. Her name is Michelle. I met her at the Neuro World Retreat in San Diego back in September. And Michelle, if you're listening to this episode, I have to say that in my 59 years of life, right, there are a few people that I have met in my life that I knew within a few minutes that I was going to be friends with this person for the rest of my life. And you are one of them. So I'm so glad, I'm so grateful that we met and that connection was so palpable, right? And when you think about how hard it is to make new friends as we get older, right? It's important to put yourself out there, right? So when it comes to my favorite moments, the third one that I want to share is really the emails that I receive from subscribers, from listeners, and from my clients, right? So again, this is a labor of love. I don't find doing this podcast to be very difficult, right? I actually love showing up for them. Sometimes when we're going to be traveling, I have to batch, and that's a bit challenging because I'm really good at procrastinating and I'm deadline driven. But at the same time, all I have to do is really think about what it is that I want to make sure that you know, right? That's going to make a difference in your life. All right, so favorite moment number 4 was watching Moxie play in the snow. So again, this just happened a few days ago on Christmas Day. The Sierra Nevada mountains got a ton of snow, a couple feet of snow. And on our drive back to the Bay Area from visiting Matt's dad, the road was affected by an accident. And they were escorting cars through like a 3-mile section. They had made it one way, so we had to follow a snowplow. So we were basically waiting for our turn for about an hour. And at one point, we decided to let Moxie out, and she got to play in the snow. And she actually drew a crowd. A bunch of people got out of their cars because you want to witness pure joy. Does that make sense? To see a dog, and a Bernese Mountain Dog, they are from the Swiss Alps, right? So when she sees snow, it's very different from her experience seeing water. She loves snow. And there was a moment where she jumped into one of the snow drifts and everything but like her head disappeared. So she was like trying to swim out. She managed to obviously get herself out of the snowdrift, but it was just, again, I've included videos. So for those of you who are listening, you might want to go to YouTube and actually watch the video. Video doesn't quite do it justice, right? But yeah, it's just seeing pure joy. All right. And the last one that I want to share with you is a moment when we were watching the Holderness family videos on YouTube, and there is one particular episode. I'll include the link in the show notes and in the description. And they are doing a song about the wife actually creating basically like a pillow fort when she goes to bed. And over the last few years, apparently this is something that I started doing as well. And after we watched that video together, Matt looked at me and he said, "I feel seen." And we just started laughing. So when I look back on 2025, that was definitely one of my favorite moments as well. So from what I'm grateful for and from these favorite moments, there are lessons that I've learned, right? First one is how important it is to be in the moment and to be fully present. So you may have noticed that in the video footage that I've shared, like the one where Moxie actually jumped into the snowdrift and had to kind of swim out, that's not the one I shared because I was fully present for when she did that, right? It wasn't behind the video screen. Now, when it came to like the volcano erupting, I do have footage of some of that, but again, you can't really get the experience from watching the videos. You need to be fully present, right? And certainly, Chase handing me those jellies, I did not have video going on when I walked into my sister's home, right? But it's about being in the moment and being fully present and not worrying about capturing it on video, okay? The second lesson I got was realizing, right, that I am making a difference for folks who really are just getting the free stuff like this podcast, right? So the US Pointer study that I talked about a few months ago, right? It was talking about how lifestyle interventions work, right? And the more that you're able to integrate into your life, the more of an effect it can have. And that with structure, as in things like coaching, you can increase your chances of both breaking old habits that no longer serve you and forming new healthy habits that do. But if you're able to do it on your own, kudos. So this podcast is all about telling you the what, the why, and even the how to make habits stick, right? And which habits you want to focus on. So if you can figure out how to do it by listening or by watching, yay for you, right? That's what I care about, is that you're able to get the results that you're looking for, that you're able to optimize your brain health, live the life you want. Now, again, if you would like some more help, right, feel free to reach out to me. Let's book a discovery call, right? No strings attached. Let's talk about how I might be able to help you. Okay? And the last thing I want to do in this episode is share my wins. So I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, and then I want to share with you some of the lessons, again, that I've learned. So, win number 1, this episode 320, because it represents that I've been showing up one episode a week, right? Once a week since February of 2020, right? Win number 2, I launched a YouTube channel, right? At Happy and Healthy with Amy. Win number 3 is that I have Doctors Dean and Aisha Sherzeh coming on my podcast in 2026. So this resulted from my attending the Neuro World Retreat in September. And so I asked them if they would come on, and they said, absolutely. How can we support you? Right? Win number 4, I made some new friends. Win number 5, I got certifications as both a menopause specialist and brain health coach. Win number 6, I launched and trademarked Second Spring Society. So this is the membership program where a bunch of us are actually in there, and I'm able to provide some additional support and accountability as well as coaching for brain healthy habits. Win number 7, I decluttered my home. Well, I started that process, made some significant progress, right? By really letting go of a lot of stuff. So either by donating it or by posting the items and giving them away on the Buy Nothing Facebook group, right? So as a result of decluttering, I was able to not just free up space, but actually free up a lot of energy as well, right? Mental and emotional energy. Win number 8, I enrolled in a different health insurance plan. So I call that a win because I received notification that my insurance plan that I was with, which is Blue Shield of California, my rate was going to basically double. My premium was going to double in January. Okay. I think this coincides with my 60th birthday coming up in March. And as a result of being a certified personal trainer through the American Council of Exercise, or ACE, I was able to join a different health plan. And that health plan was about half of what I'm paying now. All right. So why is that a win? Well, in addition to saving a bunch of money, right? It was something that I got to do because I was paying attention. Because again, I had decluttered, I'd have more energy. And I was able to notice this email, this notice that my rate was going up. Okay. Win number 9, my tennis game dramatically improved this past year. So a bunch of things finally clicked. Okay. So the lessons I got from this. And notice I said wins, and I'm not talking about losses. I'm talking about lessons. Lesson number 3 was nothing happens unless you show up. Lesson number 4 is to stay curious, right? That means you keep listening and you keep learning. That's how I ended up with some additional certifications. Lesson number 5, you want to free up your energy for what matters. If you are struggling with decluttering, I highly recommend that you go check out my dear friend, Dr. Christine Lee. She has a whole decluttering challenge that will blow your mind. All right. And you can find her on Instagram if you're looking for like when the next decluttering challenge is happening. Lesson number 6, go after what you want. Like, what's the worst that can happen if you go after it? So when I talk about getting the doctors, Sherze, on my podcast, Dean and Aisha, right? I had to ask, what's the worst they could do? Say no? Right? What would happen? Nothing, right? I wouldn't die. I just wouldn't have them on my podcast. And lesson number 7, don't sacrifice good for the sake of perfection. So this is, again, episode 320, right? We wouldn't be on episode 320 if each episode had to be perfect. So when we talk about wins, I actually want to talk about some breakthroughs that I had. So the first one is that I really noticed that I often have thoughts about my wins not being big enough. Right? So actually talking about this being episode 320, that was the last thing that when I was listing out wins that came up for me, because my natural inclination was to discount it. So do you notice that about when you celebrate your wins, that stuff will come up and then you'll just kind of go, oh no, that's not really a win, right? This is your brain focusing on the negative, right? So I want you to count every single win. Count every single win. They all matter, okay? And breakthrough number 2 was I'm in the neuro coaching certification program that's being led by Dr. Dean Sherzi. And a couple months ago, we were doing some mock coaching sessions, and I was volunteered and I accepted to be the first to actually coach Dean, right? So I will tell you that my history, right, and my instinct is to play small, to stay invisible, right? That in many ways, when you look at this podcast or my Instagram account, that I often have this thought that it's enough to help just one person. But in this particular case, when the opportunity to coach Dean came up, I actually welcomed it as an opportunity to demonstrate my coaching skills, to help other people learn. So my focus was on my desire to help him and to help others. Right? So it wasn't about me. When I make it about me, that's where the hesitation and the doubt usually show up. So lesson number 8, this is another lesson from the breakthroughs I'm talking about, is to protect your energy. So again, thoughts that create hesitation and doubt take away energy versus thoughts that empower and fuel action, right? Compel you to move forward and take action. They give you energy. I want you to protect your energy. Lesson number 9, the version of you someone created in their mind is not your responsibility to maintain. Right? It's actually safe and better to be yourself. Now, this one really hits home for me because I know somewhere in my mind that I am still trying to cater to the version of someone that isn't mine, right? That's in my dad's mind, actually. So, be you, okay? Be you. And then lesson number 10, you may not have control of your first thought, but you can choose whether or not to believe it, right? And you can choose to reframe it so that it's more empowering, right? So that's my year in review. The things that I'm grateful for in 2025, some of my favorite moments, my wins, and the lessons that I've learned. So again, I'm going to go through the 10 lessons. Number 1, the importance of being in the moment and fully present. Number 2, realizing that you make a difference just by showing up. Lesson number 3, nothing happens unless you show up. Lesson 4, stay curious, right? Keep listening and keep learning. Lesson number 5, free up your energy for what matters. Lesson number 6, go after what you want. Lesson number 7, don't sacrifice good for the sake of perfection. Lesson number 8, protect your energy. Lesson number 9, the version of you someone created in their mind is not your responsibility to maintain. And lesson number 10, you may not have control of your first thought, but you can choose whether or not to believe it. And you can choose to reframe it to be more empowering. All right? So, in the next episode, I'm going to talk about my goals for 2026, what I'm working on, and we're going to take a deep dive into the barriers for change. All right? So, that's it for this episode. I'm going to wrap things up with one of my favorite quotes by Dan Millman. So I've probably shared this quote before, but given the time of year it is, I think it's worth repeating. And that is, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new.